Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 4 American Studies and we will explain about our material, experience, poetics, and new words. First, let us introduce ourselves. Uh,
My name is Stephanie Anastasia as the first speaker.
my name is Yusril Samahendra as second speaker.
My name is Amalia as the third speaker.
My name is Putri Royani as fourth speaker.
My name is Citra Ainun Arif as a fifth speaker.
Next. So here's the contents that we will explain. First, Whitman's polyvocal poetic revolutions, equality and empire in New World Literature by Gabriel Roquil. And next is Experience to Experiment Science to Signals Toward Flasher's New World by Aaron Jeff. And the last is Unmaking American Literature, Mind-Making Fictions of the Literary by Alan Singer. The first six speakers by Stephanie Anastasia.
First, Whitman's Polyvocal Poetic Revolution, Equality and Empire in New World Literature by Gabriel Roquil. The study seeks to demonstrate the political plurivocity of aesthetics via an exploration of the motley dimension of Walt Whitman's proposed poetic revolution. First point is historical of poetry and future of people. The self-proclaimed bard of Americas, Walt Whitman framed his poetic project in terms of the need for a deep cultural transformation that would enhance the material revolution of political democracy in the United States by forming a nationality superior to any higher known and outtopping the past. In this light, he described America as simultaneously the daughter of a physical revolution and the mother of the true revolution. And the second is democracy, literary and otherwise, will be explained by Yusril Samahendra.
Democracy, literary and otherwise. Whitman's literary project was explicitly dedicated to singing the praises of American democracy and furthering its cause. For although contemporary common sense tells us that the United States was founded as democracy, it was in fact explicitly established as republic, in direct and forceful opposition to democratic modes of governments. In the terminology of the Enlightenment, a republic guaranteed proper governance because it was rooted, among other things, in a clear distinction between those capable of leading and those who needed to be governed. The small minority it was generally maintained was better educated and had more time to dedicate itself to the important texts of the res publica. The gradual conversions of the United States from an elitist oligarchic republic into what is now called a democracy was purely rhetorical. Blanky asserting that he will use the words America and democracy as comfortable terms, he appears to have lacked the incisive critical acumen of the young Arthur Rimbaud. The latter's poem, Democracy, written as a prosopopoeia invoking the brutal colonial endeavors of the French Republic, stands in stark contrast to Whitman's work and comparable poems like For You or Democracy. Rimbaud carefully inverted the colonial schema by identifying the purportedly civilizing forces of democracy as the true sources of savagery, barbarism, disease, precisely what is hypocritical flag of democracy strives to dissimulate as it gracelessly represses otherwise.
And the third point is to imperialist poetics. All too often, the cutting-edge aspect of Whitman's work have been foregrounded at the expense of paying attention complex of variegated terrain of a corpus replete with nuances counterposition. Up to a large extent, with the political unfocity of art, which is the assumption that each individual work or artist expresses a single political position. Without denying the arguments that have been marshalled above, it is important to foreground it significant aspect of Whitman's work that risks being forced underground in order to create the illusion of a univocal political position. Consider, for instance, his statements on the social order and its politic-economic coordination of gender roles. The next
Next, I will
material
explain.
explained by Aulia.
Okay. The next material is about experience to experiment, science to signal toward Fletcher's new work. America plays a role in the genesis of his ideas of experience and migrancy. The very status of nationality, American or otherwise, is a rare aesthetic frame revoked by the inevitable experience of the Negro. The next is American National Monument as signs to signals or symbolic meaning. First is the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty has three symbolic meanings that I will explain. First is American symbol of freedom. Liberty is one of the most iconic monuments in the United States. It means that the American people have freedom and democracy, free speech, free right to choose, free right to act, and free right to live. Next, there are many versions of America. Diverse opinions about the meaning of a particular symbol, but also that what is apprehended from above is wide-reaching circumference symbols of America geopolitical omnipotenta, which in the second point. And the last is the inevitably and infinitely American symbol. Look, given an image of the infrastructure of the Statue of Liberty, diagrams of its inner skeletal structure, photographs of its girders and undercarriage, the Eiffel Tower exists inevitably and infinitely there too, invisible inside the stretched copper skin of the inevitably and infinitely American symbol. Next is the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower has 2 points that I will explain. First is the liberating powers and radiating modernities. First, the liberating powers radiating modernities, a lightning bolt that comes to the ground infinite and invincible. The Eiffel Tower is the sign that is also a signal. It stands for an amiable semiotic voyage out. The liberating powers radiating modernities benefits outward in the form of plural signification. And the second point is ultimate sign symbols. Ultimate sign symbols for vectors, the Eiffel Tower is semiotic colossus that surpasses any attempt to restrict its meaning, including any conventional meaning. It functions as the ultimate sign. And the next will be explained by Putri Royani.
American word literature following the Flusserian variant is a sort of constellation of the long known as if thrown onto a hemispheric ceiling by a planetarium projector. First, word is foremost a matter of telematics and geophysical disorientation, not geopolitical accident. Second, perhaps the most difficult issue for this seminar and for Flusser as well, literature naming a critical problem of value around the necessity of reading and writing in post-history, which is to say the future. Third, America is a kind of fixing conceptual landmark for Flusser, which the context gesturally to the gluttonous continuity of life support on an endless information feed, conceiving of life as the man puts it, not just in biological but also in temporal terms, as the spatial ability to forget whatever precedes a present situation. American word literature functions as a matrix of something like database biographical, whereas the Flusserian method works like a projector of experience and experiment. Just as for the man, the capacity of unsettling concepts is critical. Against the premature settlement of antagonism, Flusser underscores the gesture of expulsion, following a Flusserian definition of American world literature. Then is an act of expanded hermeneutics into something not no less element that finding the future in the production of new meaning. The next will be explained with Chitra.
Unmaking American Literature when Making Fiction of the Literary by Alan Singer. George William Friedrich Hegel's notion of middleness, that which is opposite to naturalness, that which presupposes the necessity of some enterprise of imaginative making in order for use to gain secure process on human nature. The dimension of middleness in literary creation. The transitional act of mind makes them take priority over the movement of text across established national or ideological boundaries. In the race or autonomy with the making dimension of middleness, without which literature almost certainly succumbs to the immobility of cultural territory.
I think that's all for our material, experience, poetics, and new words. We are terribly sorry if there's any mistakes. I think that's all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.